This stuff is all part of the bubble, just the big bubble that the entire economy fell into for the last 10 years, essentially. This is all part of the whole education industrial complex. Yeah, so here's a good sort of panoramic viewpoint of all the crazy student housing that's gone up here at University of Arizona. I'm basically down just off the campus here. I was doing a little campus walk this morning. This is April 5th? Yeah, April 5th, 2020. Anyway, so I'm walking down towards the main street. Just wanted to get this Academic Administration West. Here's a little alleyway that goes down to the down to Speedway here. Again, this is in Tucson, in case you haven't seen my earlier videos. But yeah, administration, all of this, education stuff, all of the university. I mean, there's just so much bloat to all of this. Basically, the whole eds and meds kind of, racket that exists in this country at this point. You're kind of beholden, kind of held hostage almost to these institutions or to these sectors, because obviously, if you get really sick, you're going to utilize the medical establishment. I mean, and you're kind of held to whatever the current state of that is and whatever costs are involved. And so that's ends up being kind of a bit of a racket with all that, but also with education. That's a little more straightforward in the sense that you're basically told, since you're a kid or a young teen, that if you don't make it to college, if you don't go to college, you're basically ruined. Your life is going to be crap. You're not going to get a good job. You're not going to make a lot of money. That whole facade is, or that whole line has kind of become a bit shakier in recent last decade or so, maybe the last 15 years, as fewer and fewer college grads actually do get the great jobs, good paying jobs that they were essentially promised by the whole system, by whether it was their parents, whether it was by in grade school, by college, university, marketing, whatever it was, by companies themselves. That whole illusion has begun to crumble, and I think it's going to crumble even more in the coming years, as this whole economic catastrophe unfolds. This is more, pretty sure this is more student housing here. I got some sort of shops. I think some shops, maybe some offices on the ground floor. This stuff might be brand new, actually. So I guess they're putting up more housing probably, but pretty much like the stuff that's right behind the lot here, all that stuff, I would assume. And look at this, sort of epic alley of, all these high rises. This is basically student housing, as far as I'm aware. Pretty sure that's what all this is. And you basically just go straight down that way, and you eventually hit the central campus, the central mall of the campus. This is like the perfect kind of approach if you want to highlight all of the student housing. And you can see it's all very much of that modern style. You can tell it was put up like within the last probably 10 to 15 years, I would guess. It all looks pretty new. You can just recognize the style. Look at this. It almost reminds me of just some of the wonky stuff you see from like 60s or 70s era, office buildings or something, like suburban office buildings that don't necessarily age all that well. Yeah, pretty quiet here right now. I feel like I'm in like some neighborhood in, in Manhattan or something. You would think that it's kind of surprising that all of this, like what seems to be such dense, urbanism here is really just all student related. again, as far as I'm aware, I'm not exactly familiar with what each of these buildings specifically is, but I mean, this is right next to, you know, the central campus. You know, this is all part of the whole education industrial complex, you know, kind of, I guess, akin to the military industrial complex. This stuff is all part of the bubble, just the big bubble that the entire economy fell into for the last 10 years, essentially. You know, kind of like the housing bubble and all of that stuff was a bubble that inflated after the whole, you know, NASDAQ bubble popped in the early 2000s. Now, you know, we recently had a probably the biggest bubble yet, which was really throughout the economy, and of course it's predicated on all the super cheap, you know, money, super cheap credit, the huge amount of borrowing and leverage that all of society was taking out. And yeah, you know, a lot of stuff that was built was really just a symptom or a function of all of that super easy credit and money, that whole sort of blowout of wealth fumes that were still wafting our way from the 20th century, right? Everybody assumed that we were going to have like the 20th century 2.0. That's another sort of thing I want to elaborate on more. Just, you know, that whole idea, you know, that whole notion. But, you know, I think people don't fully appreciate the high probability that, or chance that, the 21st century, for the most part, is going to be quite different from the 20th century. It's not going to be just a clean, smooth segue. You know, like 20th century, bigger and better, right? Bigger and more technologically advanced. That's, I think, kind of what people were expecting, you know? Basically the same lifestyle, the same setup, you know, the same environment, same living conditions, except just on a bigger scale and with better stuff, you know, better, more advanced stuff. Well, I think people are in for a rude awakening, and 2008 was kind of a little preview of things to come, and now 2020 to, you know, whenever is going to be the real wake-up call. You know, probably not for everybody, but we'll see how well they manage to still patch things together. But it's going to be increasingly difficult for the powers that be to maintain the illusion, you know, that everything's cool and that everything is sliding seamlessly into the you know, into a 20th century 2.0, you know, reality, because that's just not going to be the reality. It'll be the illusion. Look down there. There's you can see there's a fresh structure, some fresh housing. Again, I assume you can see there's some scaffolding, there's some stuff. So they're still building that, and that's right down. Actually, I think I said the campus is down that way. The campus is actually slightly further up to the over to the east a little more. Straight down that way is the University Blvd, which is like right adjacent to the campus and leads into the campus, and it's basically where all the student, a lot of the student like bars and cafes, and it's a big student hangout down there. A really cool little street, for sure. I definitely like going down and walking along it, but yeah, I was a little mistaken when I said earlier that the campus is straight down that way. It's a little further over that way, but again, you're like a block over. Yeah, this makes you feel like you're in some kind of a more, you know, dense downtown. I think that's about all. I got a good little swing of footage there. So I think I'll cut this one off and you know, see if there's anything else on my way back to the house that that looks interesting that I could give a little talk over. Hey, look at that nice little car park down by the University of Arizona. I don't know why I had the urge to film this car park while I'm walking along down here. There's a thing about car parks. I always feel like I'm crossing through a car park somewhere whenever I'm out walking, especially in any kind of an urbanized area. Nobody appreciates a good car park, do they? Right? Isn't there sort of a je ne sais quoi about a good car park, right? Like a 90s to 2000s era car park. I'll leave us with that shot. See ya.